There was this one night. I had left my girlfriend's house at around 3:30 in the morning. We had fallen asleep after watching movies. I would have stayed the whole night, but I had to get home to my dog. She lived about 15 miles or so from me. It was mostly country roads, not a lot of traffic, so I could usually make it home in about 20 minutes. On the drive home, I came across this detour. I remember thinking that was kind of odd, because it wasn't there just the day before. So the detour would add about 10 minutes to my drive, or I could take this other road, a shortcut. It was more like a dirt road. I'm not even sure if it had an official name. Everyone just called it Crowfoot, because two other trails connected to it on each side, so it was kind of shaped like a crow's foot. I had only taken Crowfoot a handful of times. It was more for dirt bikes and ATVs. It also kind of creeped me out. There was thick woods on one side and a swamp on the other. And it was on this really steep incline. This is where people came from all over town to go sledding when it snowed. Unless you had some heavy-duty four-wheel drive vehicle, you wouldn't be able to make it up that hill in the winter. But it was summer, and I didn't feel like driving extra, so I decided to choose that path. So Crowfoot was only about 2 miles long. The first mile and a half is pretty flat. The last half mile is where it begins to go uphill and gets steeper and steeper until you reach the end. Then it connects to an actual real road. So first, let me tell you about my car. It was an old beater, a manual 4-speed. No radio, no heat, no AC. I'm pretty sure my dad paid less than $1,000 for it at the time. But it was my first car, so I was just happy to have some transportation at that point. So I'm driving my car down this road. I had my window halfway down, so I could have some airflow going. I was probably doing about 40. The only noises I hear are my tires crunching over some small rocks and the sounds of crickets and frogs. After just a few minutes of this, out of nowhere, I hear this long, loud, half cackle, half scream that startled the life out of me. What the hell was that? The noise spooked me so bad that part of me just wanted to turn around, since I had just started down the first stretch of the road. But it was a little too narrow to do a full U-turn, and I was scared if I did a K-turn, I might get stuck. Maybe it was some kind of bird or a fox or something. I decided to just stay the course. I only had another mile and a half or so. A bit uneasy, I picked up a little speed. I didn't want to go too fast. As I said, it was basically a dirt road, no paving. And even though it wasn't quite a full moon, it was still bright enough outside that I had a good amount of visibility in front and behind me. I also had my high beams on, even though they barely did anything. After a few more suspenseful minutes of driving down this road, I heard something else. This was more like a groaning or a growling noise. And it was close. It sounded like it was right outside my window, and I had driven right past it. I looked at my rear view. I saw something standing in the road behind me. I had no idea what the hell it was. I just saw a dark silhouette with reddish eyes. I thought maybe it was a deer, and my brake lights were reflecting in its eyes. But I looked closer at it, and what I saw was no deer. It almost looked like a man, but it wasn't. It was more like black smoke in the shape of a man. That's really the only way I can describe it. And it was big. Probably about 10 feet tall. It had dark red eyes that illuminated in the night. And it was moving. It was following me. I was probably doing 55 at this point, and this thing was right behind me, keeping up with me. It was probably about 50 yards or so behind me, but I could feel it getting closer. I couldn't believe what was happening, what I was seeing. I felt a fear come over me, one like I'd never felt before. My heart was pounding through my chest. I put the pedal to the floor. I knew my car would top out at 65, and I was trying to get there before I hit the incline. I was able to get to about 60 before the hill started. Shit, I could already feel my car decelerating, and this freakish thing was still gaining on me. Now it had closed the distance to about 30 yards. There was literally nothing I could do. I rolled up my windows and locked my door. "Come on, you son of a bitch," I shouted at my car. I had now slowed down to about 55, and I still had a quarter mile left to go. This thing was now very close to my car. I could see it very well now. It was like I described before. A large black cloud of smoke in the shape of a man. Dark red eyes. And I could see its face. I'll never forget the way it was looking at me. It was grinning, this wide, sinister smile. And the way it moved is what freaked me out the most. It moved fast, but it wasn't running. It floated. It just hovered towards me. I can't express to you the amount of fear I was in. This thing was probably about 5 feet from my car now. My heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. Then I heard the hatchback door handle click. Oh my God. This thing's trying to get in here with me. My car didn't have power locks, so I would literally have to lock the hatchback with a key. And more times than not, I would just leave it unlocked. But thank God, I had it locked this time. But it was then I realized I didn't lock the back doors. I quickly locked the back door on the driver's side. I reached so fast to lock the back door on the passenger side, I nearly swerved off the road. And while doing so, my foot came off the gas pedal just enough to slow me down even more so. I had locked the doors just in time. The handles were clicking just after I was able to lock them. It then began to approach my window. I could hear its claws scraping my car as it grew nearer to me. And then it was pulling on my door handle violently. Then it hunched over and peered inside the window. I could feel it staring at me. Its face was literally inches from mine, only separated by a thin piece of glass. I thought it was gonna smash through the window and kill me. I seriously thought I was about to die. But it just stayed there, staring at me. I remember not looking directly at it, maybe partly because I was scared shitless. But I remember having something inside me very strongly tell me, almost like a voice, do not look into its eyes. I can't really explain it, but I could still see it there, from the corner of my eye, and I could feel its sinister smile. It probably sat there staring at me just for a matter of seconds, but it felt like an eternity. And then, all of a sudden, it just started to fall back. It was no longer on the side of my car. I looked into my rear view and saw it standing in the middle of the road behind me. Then it just shot straight up into the air and out of my sight. It was absolutely terrifying. My mind was going crazy. What was that thing? Where'd it go? Was it still following me? I just kept focused on the road. I was almost there. I finally came to the crossroad. I pulled onto the road so hard, I almost rolled my car. I was still trying to process what just happened. I was shaking. I had never believed in ghosts or whatever, but I felt like my world was turned upside down in just a matter of minutes. I didn't go to work the next day, or for the next few days for that matter. I honestly felt like I was traumatized. I told all of my friends and family what happened, but I'm not sure anyone really believed me, besides my then girlfriend, who's now my wife. They all said it could have been my imagination, or a bear or something. But I know what I saw, and I know what I went through that night. I'm not sure I've ever really been the same since. 4 years later, a guy crashed and died on Crowfoot. It was around 3 or 4 in the morning, the same time I was driving down that road. He somehow lost control of his car and went off the road into a tree. They think he may have fallen asleep at the wheel. There was some weird stuff in the autopsy, like bite marks on his back and shoulders, scratch marks all over his body. And the craziest part is, it happened on the exact same date as my incident. I can't help but wonder, did the same thing happen to him? Did he see the monster? Maybe he looked into its eyes.